So my goal today is to make a bow drill fire with only a knife. I'm going to make my own string, and I'm going to gather all the stuff from the woods today. So right now I'm here in north central West Virginia, in a deciduous forest. I'm walking on an old logging road, and I'm going to try to find all the materials I need. So the first order of business is I'm looking for some corded material to make my string out of for the bow drill. So what I'm looking for is a dogbane. It's also called Indian hemp. It's used by the Indians to make bowstrings, and it makes a really strong cord, so it will be excellent for making a cord for my bow drill fire. So I'm walking along this logging road, and I'm looking for it as I go. This logging road was brush hogged in the summer, so it might be a little hard to find, but I know I've seen it growing around here before, and once I find some, I'll show you what it looks like, and we'll go from there. Alright, so there's a really good stand of dogbane here behind me. Let me show you what it looks like. So here is the dogbane. We'll bring you a little closer here. So if you look at the dogbane, you'll notice I just broke that one off, but you'll notice right here, see how these two branches come off the opposite side of the plant here? So that's called opposite branching. On dogbane, that's one of its unique characteristics, is it has opposite branching. Then also, it's got this kind of reddish colored bark. It stands out a little bit from the background. It's not super red, but it helps you identify it. And the next thing is these pods. So these pods, they're the seed pods of the dogbane. They're long and skinny like a bean. Let me break some off here. So you see these seed pods. Try to get the camera to focus. So yeah, they're long, skinny like a bean. This one is a pair of them. And if you break these open on the inside, pull it out here, they've got these seeds with fluffy, they've got all this fluff on them to help them blow in the wind. So it's got opposite branching, it's got a reddish bark, and it's got these seed pods up at the top. And that's what it looks like, and now I'm going to show you how to process it into cordage. So I got all these dogbane stalks I just cut. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off all these branches. So some of these will just break off. I might have to cut others off. These ones are breaking off pretty easy. Take my knife and cut off the tip of the dogbane. So now that's all that's left is just the stalk, the main stalk. Nice and straight. I got the branches cut off. And I'm going to do that to all these, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crush the stalk. It's hollow inside, so it crushes pretty easy. Crushing it against this log here. Crush the whole thing all the way down and all the way up. And now I should be able to split it in half, and it breaks into 4 segments you see here. And so I split those 4 segments into 2 different groups, and I split it down the middle. Now you'll notice I have 2 halves of the stalk here. So now what I'm doing is I'm going to take it, and I have the pith side facing towards me, the bark side is facing away, and then I take it and I break it like that. I peel the inside off the outer, or off the bark, which is the part we're going to use. Give us the fiber. So you just see I'm peeling off this woody material, and I'm just leaving the outer bark. So now what I've got left, just this outer bark here. And I could just use this to make my cordage, but it's a lot better if you first process this bark to make your cordage. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gonna roll it between my hands, and the outer bark flakes off, and the inner bark that was closer to the stem is where all your fibers are. So as you do this, the reddish colored outer bark flakes off, and what you're left with is, see all those fibers in there? They're kind of a tannish to light brown color, and that's what we're left with once we get rid of the outer bark. Now, not all of your outer bark is going to come off with this method, but it really loosens up the bark and gets rid of a lot of that outer bark, which doesn't do you any good. So the cordage is much better after you do this. So as you see, just rolling it between my hands, and see all that outer bark that's flaking off? Yeah, we don't need that. So I'm going to do that to the whole length of this, and I'm going to process a bunch of this until I have enough to make a cordage for the bow drill. And then I'll show you, once I'm done processing this, I'll show you how I go about making that cordage. So I'm going to show you how I go about making this cordage. So I got these different pieces of the inner bark that I've cleaned up, and then what I'm doing is I'm using a reverse wrap cordage technique. So I got my cordage here, and I got this strand and this strand. I'm wrapping the two together. So I twist this one, I come under with my fingers, I grab that and I twist it around. So twist, wrap, twist, wrap, twist, wrap. And that's basically how I'm going about making this cordage. Twist, wrap. That's what I've got made so far. Sorry about the camera not focusing. Once I have enough for a cordage for the bow drill, I'll go on to the next step. Alright, so it's something I forgot to mention. So eventually I'll come to a spot where you see I have this cord here, and I'm running out of material. So you see the end right there. So I just keep twisting it up. I'll come to that and I'll have no more material to put into my rope. So I'm going to show you how you add on the other pieces that you have. So I've got all my other pieces over here. And so I'm going to grab one. So here it is. And I'm going to add it on to this strand here. So what I do is I take the end of it here, and I just put it with the other one there, put it next to it, and I just start wrapping it up with the other one. And you'll see just all that friction that's holding this rope together is going to hold that new piece in, which I just put in right here. You can see the tag end. It'll hold that in the rope, and you can just keep adding pieces like that and make the rope as long as you want. So you see this bush here. This is an autumn olive bush, and I just cut the bow for my bow drill out of it. Used autumn olive because I'm not worried, or I don't feel bad about cutting a live autumn olive tree because it's such an invasive tree. It doesn't really do any good as far as I know. You don't need a live stick for your bow, for the bow drill, but I just like using autumn olive. So I got this stick here, I cut out of it. I got this Y at the end here, and that's just to help me tie the string on it. I'll make a few modifications to this as we go on to make it easier to tie the string on, but this is what I've got for now, and now I got to get my hearth board, my spindle, and my bearing block, so stay tuned. Alright, so what I'm looking for now is I'm looking for some dry wood that's off the ground, but it's dead, like I said, off the ground, because for a bow drill you want as dry wood as you can get. And the other thing is I want it to be a lightweight wood. Not rotten, but I don't want hickory or black locust or something like that. It just won't work as well. So I'm looking for a dry wood that's not too heavy, kind of a light wood, easy to carve, and that'll work best for the bow drill. Now you don't have to know the wood species though to find wood that'll work well. When I come across pieces that I think look good, pick them up, see how much they weigh. If they're not rotten but they're real lightweight, then that's probably a really good piece to use. Or if it's like real heavy it's either waterlogged or it's just a real heavy wood, and you don't want to use something like that. So I'm looking for things that are lightweight, not too rotten, and they're dry. So that's what I'm looking for, and I'm just looking off to the side in the woods here. I'll probably end up using poplar or something like that, maybe sycamore. I'll show you what I find when I find it. Stay tuned. So here there's a top of a tree that fell out of the tree. See all these branches here? And you see how they're off the ground. Just to the left over there, that big tree right there, that's a poplar tree. And I think this is one of its top branches that fell out. So I come over here, I look at it, see this little branch here? It snaps real easy, but it doesn't seem too rotten, but it's obviously very dry. So I think this is what I'm going to use. So I've got like this piece right here. I think that this piece will make a decent spindle, and one of these bigger pieces in here somewhere will make a fine fireboard. It'll take me a while to cut these out of here because I'm just using my knife, but this ought to work. So I'm gonna get to work on cutting those out of here, and then I just need some tinder and a bearing block, and I should be able to start a friction fryer. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the pieces I need out of this, and then I'm gonna go looking for a bearing block to use. So what a lot of people do for a bearing block when they're doing everything from scratch is they use a wooden bearing block. And the bearing block, you want to have as little friction as possible. And I find with the wooden bearing block, it makes it so much harder to get a successful bow drill fire. So what I'm going to do, instead of using a wooden bearing block, is I came down to this stream down here. And I got this piece of sandstone that I found in the stream. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take another rock out of the stream, and I'm going to start boring a divot in this sandstone. And I'm going to use this sandstone rock here as my bearing block. And this won't be as good as, say, a bearing block that's made out of something like metal, which has very little friction. This will still eat away the wood, but it will be way better than a wooden bearing block. So I think taking the time to carve a divot and a rock is definitely worth it. So that's what I'm going to do now. Let's take my other rock. I start wearing the two against each other. It's going to take a little while. And if the rock you're using to try to make the divot is just wearing away super fast and not doing anything, you can just grab another rock from the stream and see if it works any better. Now, if you were trying to do this with a very hard rock, like, I don't know, quartz or something, this would never work. But with the sandstone, you can wear it away like this. So the sandstone works great. It's going to take a while. So, let's see here, that right here, I've got a divot starting to form. And I'm just going to keep making that deeper until I feel satisfied with it. Alright, so I got all my materials collected. I haven't carved my spindle yet. This is what my hearth board is going to be. Use this area right here. And these are both from that downed poplar branch. So I was carving the spindle. This right here is way too thick. I want something about the thickness of, say, my thumb. If you make it too thick, it's going to be hard to get enough pressure to get ignition. But if you make it too thin, you might just break it in half. So there is a balance. Too thin is probably better than too thick, though. So as I carve this down, I want to make sure it's nice and straight and circular. So on one end, I'm going to make it pointy, not with a sharp point, but it's going to come down to a point that's rounded. And that's going to be the end that goes to the bearing block, almost like I'm carving a spear, but then I'm going to come out here and round this point. Yeah, so that's the end that's going to go on the bearing block, like that. And then with this end, and that's going to be going on the fireboard, I want that end to be a nice blunted end, kind of a semicircle. So I'll start with that. And also, I think I'm going to still trim this down a little more, but I'm going to go ahead and carve the end first. So now I've got here my fireboard. You can see I already flattened one side and have this area here cut out. So I'm going to make a divot in it where this is going to go in and rotate. Rock bearing block. I'm going to go slow at first. It's already starting to... Alright. So, no trouble there because my rope was coming loose. But you see there, I've got divot starting to form. Alright, got my notch carved in there. I gotta tighten this rope up. Now with this, because it's a twisted rope, you just twist it tighter. And that's one way to tighten it. Only work for so long before you have to actually untie the knot and tighten it, but for now, hopefully that'll be enough. So, now I need something to catch my coals. Alright, so I got a leaf here to catch my coal. Put this over top of it. I got my Tyndall bundle off the side. You probably can't see it, but it's there. It's under grass that I found. Let's see if I can get a coal. Alright, my rope here is getting awful loose. I'm definitely going to need to tighten it. This is one of the big problems with doing your own rope is it really stretches out as you use it. It makes it a lot harder. Get this in here. That's real tight now. Let's hope it stays that way so I can get an ember. I think we got ember here. Well, since it's still smoking, I think we've got it. Get my tinder bundle ready. Just got all this grass here. So it's a good idea to let that sit for just a little while. Let the coals in it coalesce. Start smoking a little more. I'm using that time here to get my sticks processed. Honestly, I should have done this sooner, but not worried. Alright, that coal's starting to look like it's getting good and coalesced. See if we can safely transfer it into our tinder bundle here. Try to have a good place to put it. Kind of fell apart when I put it in there, which isn't good, but still have high hopes. Smoking good. It's slow going. Like I said, that ember fell apart when I put it in there. It wasn't coalesced very well. Not sure why, but that's how it was. Alright, we got flame. Top of it here. It's so dry, just go right up. So there we are. We got a fire. We made all this in the woods today with just a knife. We've got our spindle, fireboard, our dogbane rope, autumn olive bow drill, and what really makes this easy to do, a rock bearing block instead of a wood one. And we got our fire right here.